back to part 2 of our look at the sale of the Paramount collection, which raised nearly $42 million in total. Let's start off by taking a look at a veritable titan from the New Zealand catalogue, the famous Waitangi crown from 1935, commemorating the signing of the Waitangi Treaty between representatives of the British Crown and the indigenous Maori chieftains on the 6th of February 1840. But this is in fact not the coin that you might be familiar with, but instead an earlier pattern of the same design. Comparing the pattern with the regular coin soon reveals the key differences, like the crown, the symbol of British authority, symbolically enfolding both men as opposed to standing between them on the pattern. There are numerous other smaller differences on the pattern coin as well that become apparent only with minimal effort given to its study. This exceedingly rare pattern piece for a very popular New Zealand 5-shilling piece was graded by NGC as MS64 and sold at auction for $72,000. Then we are presented with an intriguing piece indeed, a French medallic Essai commemorating the visit of Napoleon Bonaparte to the Paris Mint on March the 12th, 1803. This was while Napoleon was still first consul of the First French Republic, dated almost exactly a year after the signing of the Treaty of Amiens, bringing an end to the War of the Second Coalition, and again almost exactly a year before Napoleon's ascent to Emperor of the First French Empire. Though other pieces such as this are known, the current example appears to be unique as it has a thick raised rim with a plain edge, a key detail which does set it apart from other known examples in both silver and gold, graded by NGC as proof 61, attaining a closing price of $90,000 at auction. A spectacular milled example of a 1732 Spanish dollar or 8 reales piece issued under the reign of Philip V from the Mexico City Mint is up next. The very first of its kind, featuring the now all too recognizable Pillars of Hercules design. It would go on to become one of the most successful circulating silver coins of all time, used and recognized across the globe, only to be replaced around 40 years later in 1772 by the equally distinct bust-type design. This phenomenal example of Spanish colonial silver is graded by NGC as MS62 and was sold at auction for the sum of $168,000. And so, another fascinating French coin, or, well, more specifically a gold essay known simply as the Two Effigies, bearing the opposing busts of King Louis XIII and XIV on respective sides of the coin, speculated to have been issued in 1643 as a symbolic transfer of powers from father to son, as King Louis XIII found himself in ailing health in the spring of that year. He wisely decreed that upon his passing, a regency council should rule until such time that Louis XIV, the future Sun King, was to come of age, as he was only 4 years old at that time. The coin is known in silver as well as bronze examples, but this appears to be the only known example surviving in gold, although I would absolutely be delighted to stand corrected on that point. Graded as MS62 by NGC, it raised $288,000 on its turn on the auction block. And then we have an example that words simply struggle to express fully. A massive gold medallic offering featuring 80 millimeters, that's over 3 inches, and almost 350 grams or 12 ounces of gold, issued by Holy Roman Emperor Leopold I in the year 1690 to commemorate his son's crowning as king in Germany at the grand old age of 11 years old. Joseph I would eventually go on to succeed his father as Holy Roman Emperor in 1705. The reverse depicts a literal family tree of the Habsburg emperors, from Rudolf I all the way to Leopold I. Only a single other example of this grand coronation medal can currently be confirmed to exist, with this one graded by NGC as MS61 proof-like. This once-in-a-lifetime auction opportunity managed to raise $360,000 at auction. The Bohemian Three Emperors 5 ducat poses an interesting challenge, so if you'll bear with me for just a minute here. Now, when a coin bears no date, the usual course of action would be to examine the obverse for either a house coat of arms or ideally the portrait of a king or a ruler to place it within a specific date range. However, this coin bears the name and image of not only a single, but of 3 separate emperors: Maximilian I, Charles V, and Ferdinand I, all Holy Roman emperors whose combined rule spans nearly 60 years, from 1508 all the way to 1564. The thing is that the triple bust design is not actually unique, and as it was first used in 1590 as a commemorative design during the rule of Rudolf II, you can see here that, well, it's the same idea, but obviously not the same design. Other than the obvious, the overall quality and fineness of the design is far improved on the gold coin from this 1890 offering, to mention one thing. Look at the crowns, for instance, where the 1590 thaler has a fairly simple depiction. The ducat does bear a far more accurate depiction of the elaborately decorated crown of the Austrian Empire, then still known as the crown of Rudolf II. Then, moving forward from 1590, you soon discover the coronation thaler of Emperor Matthias, which seems to use the same obverse dies, strongly suggesting that the coin was struck during his rule as Holy Roman Emperor and King of Germany, also of Bohemia, Croatia, Hungary, and the Archduke of Austria, in case anyone's keeping score, which spanned from 1612 to 1619. Although NGC simply chose to label the coin as minted in 1612, which is oversimplified but not necessarily incorrect if you really want to be pedantic about it. And by now you probably know that, yes, I do. And graded as MS63, this exquisitely rare example of a fabled Drei Kaiser series sold at auction for $408,000. Then we have an astonishing gold 20 ducat from the rule of Ferdinand III, also Holy Roman Emperor, minted just 2 years before his death. Although Ferdinand ruled for just shy of 20 years, the first full decade of which was overshadowed by the last years of the 30 Years' War, a lumbering, seemingly never-ending conflict that he inherited from his father, but finally saw an end to in 1648, with historians estimating anywhere between 4 and up to 8 million dead as a result. This massive, almost unnecessarily large gold coin weighing in a hair shy of 70 grams was graded by NGC as AU55 and fell under the auctioneer's gavel for $432,000. The 10 louis d'or is an interesting denomination, to say the least. It's France's largest gold denomination, weighing in at over 2 ounces of gold, or 67 grams. It was never intended for circulation either, rather made as a vanity piece for the king's gambling tables. A true testament to the opulence of the court of Louis XIII. Similar, although not exactly the same, to the Three Emperors coin from earlier. This coin's exact date of mintage is somewhat in question. There has been some debate in the numismatic community as to whether most of the surviving examples, such as this 1640 dated 10 louis, are original, or in fact perhaps restrikes instead, dating as much as 200 years later to the period of Napoleon III in the mid-19th century. However, the presence of a die crack across Louis's neck that matches other known examples, and a notable absence of pitting and surface scarring that would have been caused by die rust would suggest that this is in fact an original, at the very least perhaps an early restrike, if the theory is to survive scrutiny. NGC, too, seems to be erring on the side of caution in this event, and it labeled this as an early restrike with a grade of MS61, sold here at auction for $456,000. Now, if you like this, then remember to check out part 3 of the Paramount collection, focusing on ancient coins, or perhaps part 1 that looked at the British coins instead. Also, subscribe to WNN and activate notifications with the bell icon to know when new videos are released. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman, saying thank you ever so much for watching. Stay safe, keep collecting, and have a fantastic day.